We absolutely crushed the UFL last week, going 6-2 on our bets. With only 4 weeks left in the regular season, it's time for you to get into these United football streets. Stay tuned for game breakdowns and best bets. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of IDP Plus Bets. What is up, folks? I am your host, the Degen Doc, and that is right. It is week 7. Only 4 more weeks of the United Football League regular season, and then we got our 2 weeks of playoffs, of course, capped off with that UFL championship. And what a week! We're coming off week 6. Just talked about it, 6-2 in our plays on the YouTube for the sides and totals. Overall, a very, very fun and profitable week. Let's get right into it, folks. If you are new here, welcome. First of all, we'll do a quick recap of last week. We'll talk about power rankings, how I see things going down. We'll talk big news, injuries, and trades, and then we'll go game by game, breaking it down, letting you know what you need to know, and finally giving out my picks, wrapping up with best bets, and a little bit of a DGen bet for you. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Let's start with that week 6 here. Here are the scores for last week. Very exciting week in the UFL here. Really for the show last week, started off, I really liked Arlington. Clearly, they did not get it done. This was a game where they had 4 turnovers, 11 penalties, a missed field goal. Their starting running back got hurt. I mean, literally, it was like Murphy's Law, I think someone put it. It's a great way to describe that game if you're an Arlington backer. Arlington looked like the better team. They just did not get it done. St. Louis, really not that impressive, but that home crowd helped create some penalties there, and they ultimately got it done. And then we ripped off, 5-6 straight actually in a row where we hit every side and total there that we gave out. Memphis covering. Really, Memphis, man, when they look back on the season, 2 1-point losses to the Houston Roughnecks, a defensive touchdown for the Houston Roughnecks that really kind of pushed them over the edge. You have Michigan absolutely laying it on. DC was all over Michigan at home. Bryce Perkins is, if you have not seen Bryce Perkins play football, do yourself a favor. Watch some highlights now. I know I've got them all over my X, and you can find them on Twitter, wherever. But Bryce Perkins is the real deal. And then the Brahmas still suck. And I wasn't really super impressed with Birmingham, but I figured Birmingham was going to cover and the under was going to hit because it was going to be a boring, snoozing game, just like San Antonio gave us last week with the Houston Roughnecks there. So that is your week 6 scores. As far as the recap from this side here, let's go ahead and pull this over. I do tweet this out always over on the X, so at the Degen Docs, not only for up to date news, things like that, but also, as I always talk about, give my size and totals here, give my player props out there. Now, as you can see, as I do a quick scroll here, there's a lot of bets, right? Look, the wife went out of town, so I had all weekend to essentially watch football and gamble. So I took advantage of it. So sprayed the board a little bit, but again, sides and totals, we matched up very well there. Player props, really, it was the Dresser win and Kevin Hogan week. A couple of big cashes there that really came through. Dresser win with his anytime touchdown at plus 550. And then Kevin Hogan, went big 3 units on his normal prop and then gave out 150 plus yards at plus 190 and 175 plus passing yards at 6-1. So between Dresser win and Kevin Hogan, those were definitely the all-stars of the week for me. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of all the plays, it is over there on the X, but we are not doing that because we're not looking through the rear view. Look, we went up a total of 7.79 units in the green last week, bringing our total to the season. We are up 8.92 units if you've followed all my plays, prayer props and the sides there. So very well in the green now. Had a nice bounce back week after a couple weeks of a little bit of on the downturn, but we're right back there. And I feel like we're getting hot at the right time, getting ready for the playoffs, just like these teams need to do. And here's how the rankings play out here as we come down the stretch We've got four teams sitting at 4-2. Then we've got the two teams in Arlington, Houston sitting at 3-3. And then we got San Antonio and Memphis rounding out the bottom here. So those are our standings. Now let's look at how I see this kind of breaking down with my rankings going power rankings going into UFL week 7 here. Week 7. So I've got Michigan at top, and I'm going to continue my shtick of Michigan Panthers with Bryce Perkins and Danny Etling because blame Mike Nolan for that one, having us, looking at the plays that Bryce Perkins made this week. I mean, the dude is nothing short of a magician. I encourage you to go look at some of the highlights. He is just refused to be tackled. He made several plays that were just outstanding to even get away from the pressure, let alone, throw a dart 40 yards down the field for a touchdown. Or, he was scrambling on a 3rd and 20 and just made 5 guys miss and picked up the first down. He's just an absolute stud. So Michigan is in the top. Now, 2 through 6 gets a little bit difficult here. I've given DC the slight edge at number 2. They've beaten St. Louis. They've beaten Birmingham. They've beaten Arlington. I think that gives them a little bit of the edge there. They do have one bad loss against San Antonio, and then they just got really beat up by Michigan. But I still think they come in at number 2 there. And then St. Louis and Birmingham are really pretty similar teams to me. Good defense, hard to completely trust their offense. Quarterback injuries really kind of lead to some of that. A little bit of pessimism with their offense there. Arlington has all the talent in the world, but man, they shoot themselves in the foot. And Houston at 3-3. I mean, this is a huge week. They play Birmingham this week for a shot. They win this game, they're squarely in the playoff race. They're in the playoff hunt. So, Houston there. Memphis, I don't think they're as bad as their record says, but 2 1-point losses to Houston will put you down there. And then the San Antonio Bombers are awful, like a absolute disgrace that this is the same team that was 1 game shy of the UFL championship last season. So those are the power rankings going in to week 7. Obviously, we'll talk much more as we go through the game breakdowns, but let's go ahead and talk about some of the news here. The big news for the week here, we had a trade. Yes, the UFL is still trading. I think the funny thing is the trade was between 2 teams that are squarely out of the playoff race. I mean, I don't think they've been technically, mathematically eliminated yet, but it was between the Memphis Showboats and the San Antonio Brahmas. Memphis is sending wide receiver D. Anderson. They're sending him to San Antonio in exchange for cornerback Darius Phillips. Now, D. Anderson, one of their better receivers there, especially with Dresser Wynn. He's kind of built a nice relationship. But I think from their side of the house, that lets us know that Dawood Davis, one of the best wide receivers in the UFL last season, he was activated off the IR last week. Looks like he wasn't quite ready to go. Tells me he's probably going to play this week, which is a good sign. So, between Dawood Davis, Jonathan Adams, Kwame Lassiter, and Kai Loxley, Memphis doesn't really need more wide receivers, although D. Anderson's a good player. San Antonio, on the other hand, absolutely needs wide receivers. They are the worst passing offense in the league. They have the most drops in the league. Their wide receivers these past 2 weeks have been very beat up. Like, they can use all the help they can get. So Anderson immediately becomes an impact player for them. And then Darius Phillips, one of the better cornerbacks in the league. Memphis already the number 2 passing defense in the league. So this really just kind of adds to a strength of theirs. Now, he is a little bit beat up on the injury report. So we'll see if he plays this week. But, he is one of the solid cornerbacks, especially last season. He played really well for San Antonio. So some talent to that secondary room. We're in an already pretty talented cornerback room. You've got the Birmingham Stallions signing quarterback Jalen Morton. He's an arena football guy. He was kind of apparently lighting up the league. I don't know a ton about him. In 2023, he was the backup to Alex Mago and that championship team for the Birmingham Stallions. Obviously didn't get a ton of burn there, but he does have a USFL ring. So we'll see there. I think, obviously Matt Corral looks like he may be done for the year. Alex Magoo, they're talking about potentially, week 8 or 9 recovery time, but not expected this week. You have Andrew Peasley come in and provide, it was kind of like two quarterback system there last week with Case Hookers and Peasley. Peasley, kind of messed up his knee. He was talking about his MCL, medial collateral ligament there, which is going to be a little bit tough to try to play this week. And Case Cookers is banged up as well. So maybe this is just, some depth here. They just brought him in this week. I don't know how quickly he's going to be able to pick up the offense. But it gives you a decent option for a backup, because who knows, at the rate that Birmingham quarterbacks are getting injured, this dude's probably going to be on the field. So we'll see there. Major injury news for St. Louis. Abdul Beecham, their really talented offensive guard, their right guard, their starter. He's been put on the IR. No word on the injury just yet, because their injury report hasn't come out yet. But yeah, he's been put on the IR. This is a huge loss. When he, first couple weeks of the season, they had their offensive line intact under Mark Colombo, and they looked great. They were the number one rushing team. They're still the number one rushing team in the UFL, although they've kind of dropped off a little bit. When he went out of the lineup, Beecham, earlier with the thumb injury, this unit very much declined, both in the run game and in the pass protection game. So I have some concerns here now with that St. Louis offensive line that was one of the top in the leagues, losing one of their key guys for likely the rest of the season, at least the regular season. Then you got Michigan lost a couple rotational guys to the IR as well. And then some bigger injuries that happened in the game that we're still kind of waiting on here. Talked about Andrew Peasley re-injuring his knee there. Unlikely, I would say, he's going to play. Anthony McFarland, San Antonio is like one of their only good players who can do anything. He hurt his shoulder pretty early on in that game against Birmingham, and he got ruled out. He's currently not practicing, and neither is Arlington running back Kalen Balaj, who also hurt his shoulder and got ruled out. He's not practicing as well. So you're talking about two of the top running backs, two of the top playmakers in the league, likely not going to be there for their teams that could desperately use them. Definitely big injury news, things you need to be aware of. So without further ado, let's get into these game breakdowns here. Let's talk bringing up our first game on the slate, Friday night action. I really love the Friday night lights aspect. My wife might be a biggest fan, but I like getting a little dose of the Friday, Saturday, and then two games on Sunday action. Kind of helps keep the weekend fresh there. Really welcomes us in with some football, which in my household, I think that's the best way to get welcomed, is with some football. So Friday Night Lights, San Antonio, Texas, 8 p.m. Eastern time. DC Defenders on the road. They are laying 6.5 as road favorites. That's minus 120. All these lines are going to be over from Bet365, the kind of the friendliest lines that I saw, at least on the sides that I want to be on. Mostly around the same, maybe -7, at minus 115 I've seen, but sitting around minus 350 on the money line. San Antonio Brahmas catching 6.5 as home dogs at plus 100, plus 275 on the money line. Now, it's a shame because typically this big of a home dog, you kind of want to put yourself there. That's where you'd like to go, right? But I do think San Antonio might have a crowd. They did have finally their home opener 2 weeks ago in week 5, 15,000 fans. I've been in the Alamo Dome. It's a great environment. They had Fiesta going on, which is also a great time. A lot of partying, a lot of people who want to watch football, and they absolutely laid an egg. They got their ass kicked by, I think, 24 or 23 points. So we'll see if the fans show up again. Hopefully, for the sake of the league, they do. But, I mean, it's hard to blame them with this San Antonio team. Looking at the injury reports, DC is missing. So for this game, we obviously have Monday and Tuesday injury reports. So tomorrow, sometime, we should be getting their depth charts out. But their two safeties, starting safeties, are both not practicing still. They missed the games last week in Kidd and Hawkins. So unlikely they play again. And then San Antonio has 7 guys currently not practicing as of Tuesday, including guys like Anthony McFarland, Jacob Harris, and Kavion Patton. 3 very big impact players for them. So both these teams a little bit beat up, but San Antonio definitely the worst team coming in and the more injured team. Which by my estimation does not bode very well for this team. Look, they did play, what was that, in week 4? Yeah, they played 3 weeks ago. San Antonio picked up their lone win against DC, right? So San Antonio sitting at 1-5, DC at 4-2. This was DC's first loss and San Antonio's first win on the season. San Antonio won by a score of 24-18 in DC. The team that showed life there in that game, it seems like that took literally everything out of them. I mean, this San Antonio team has lost by a combined 47 points in the last 2 weeks. They've been an absolute shell of themselves. I mean, they've got so many problems. They don't have a quarterback figured out. Kevin Hogan came in and I was on his yards and he did pretty well. That offensive line is a mess. They give him no time. His wide receivers, including their best wide receiver, Jontre Kirkland, dropping wide open touchdown passes. They can't run the ball, especially with no Anthony McFarland. They're just a mess, really. This offense is a mess. And the defense. I mean, this defense, not only is the offense the worst by far, but the defense is worst by far. They're giving up the most points in the league at 26 points per game. They're terrible against the run. They're terrible against the pass. They just traded away one of their cornerbacks, starting quarterback. Their defensive line's all beat up. There's just nothing good to say about this team. They're awful. It's a disgrace that, a team with a very similar roster was one of the best teams in the league, the runner-up for the UFL championship, and this is what they've turned into. But it's what they are. And, it's that they are who we thought they were, right? At this point. So I'm all over DC. DC, giving them -6.5 as well. I will also be giving out a little bit of a DJ play with them. A little bit of an outline. So even looking back at that game, in week 4, DC outgained San Antonio by almost 200 yards. They had 409 yards of offense compared to San Antonio's 219 yards. I think a lot of things broke right for San Antonio in that game, and a lot of things went wrong for DC. It was, DC was smelling themselves a little bit. They kind of sleptwalked into that game. This is a revenge game. I think DC is going to absolutely light them up. I don't know play on the over there. I could see it being, something like 26-3, which would, cash that under. I could also seeing it being something like 35-10, right? So I'm gonna no play on the over under there, but give me DC all over DC in this one, especially at that -6.5 there. All right, so we are going to move on to our next game on the slate. But before we do that, I got to tell you about some of our awesome sponsors we got here at IDP Plus that allow me to do what I do. So, starting with Fast Draft Fantasy. That's right, it's in the name, folks. You know what you want to do. You know the guys you want to draft. You don't want to be waiting for Sally and Joe in front of you taking a minute, 30 seconds. You want to know, hey, look, I want Bo Nix right now. Now, I don't know how many people are drafting Bo Nix. That just, for whatever reason, was the first thing that kind of came to mind. Or, hey, I really think that Bucky Irving's going to absolutely go off. You know your guys that you want to draft. All you need is 20 seconds. These drafts all end under 10 minutes. They have these boosters that allow for flexibility. And then as a bonus, use promo code Degen Doc. That's Degen Doc, all caps, all one word, with a free deposit match up to $50. So it's this simple, folks. Download Fast Draft Fantasy, use promo code Degen Doc, deposit $50, and boom, $50 free. Just doubled your money on us. Also, make sure you check out idpplus.com. That's right, idpplus.com. We've got a number of great subscriptions that you do not want to miss out on. IDP Plus, look, we are one of the only groups that is talking football 365, 24/7. If it's football, we're talking about it, and you don't want to miss out, especially you Dynasty fans over there. You want to make sure you're getting ready for the season. The draft is come and gone. So we're already giving out our Dynasty rankings over there. I know Derek and I just dropped a tight ends one, so you can check that out. We got a ton of things coming out, so you want to head over to idpplus.com there. And then finally, the best part of the offseason is going to the Fantasy Football Expo and the 2025 Fantasy Football Expo. The tickets are live at thefantasyfootballexpo.com. It's August the 8th through the 10th in beautiful Canton, Ohio, the home of football, where the Pro Football Hall of Fame is. It's where the NFL Hall of Fame game is. So you want to definitely check that out. Again, that is the fantasyfootballexpo.com. All right, folks, let's go ahead and move on to our Saturday game. That's right, we have the Michigan Panthers taking on the Arlington Renegades. Michigan Panthers sitting at 4-2. top my power rankings, and the Arlington Renegades sitting at 3-3. Michigan on the road here. It's at 1 p.m. Eastern in Arlington, Texas. Michigan laying one, basically a pick 'em, -110 on the money line. Arlington catching one, -115, and then -110 on the money line. Over under sitting at 42.5. Highest total on the board there. This for me was the hardest game to handicap, in my opinion, on the slate. Last time they played was last season in Week 6. It was a 27-28 win for the Michigan Panthers at home. So I'm not sure how much that game really tells us for last season. A bit different rosters there, definitely different. Same quarterback for Arlington, definitely different caliber of quarterback for Michigan. Injury report wise, you've got Michigan with 4 defensive guys banged up. We only got one kind of just the Tuesday or the first day of practice. So got to take that with a grain of salt. Definitely, can't tell which way some of these are going to go. They've also got a couple tight ends banged up for Michigan. On the Arlington side, they've really got 2 guys in danger of missing. The one big one is Kalen Ballage. He was the leading rusher in the UFL as of last week before he went out. Their starting center also kind of was a late scratch, did not play. Again, 11 penalties. That offensive line was a little bit in turmoil. They struggled to run the ball when Ballage went out. So these are 2 significant injuries there. And then obviously Michigan losing some guys on the defensive end. So how do I see this game breaking down? I do think it's going to be a close game. I think the spread is right to be, basically a pick 'em there. But at the end of the day, you have one team with the best player in the league, and that's Bryce Perkins. Bryce Perkins rules. He's absolutely dynamic. He has this offense just flowing with such good rhythm. It's a shame that we had to see Danny Etling ever touch the field because we probably missed out on so many more exciting plays. But we're here. We're finally here. He's doing what he's doing. When I look at these teams, talent-wise, they're very similar. They're very talented rosters, right? Especially Arlington's defense this year has been one of the best comeback stories, the turnaround stories. They were awful. That defensive unit last season was terrible, and they are one of the best in the league now. I think it's going to come down to execution. And as much as I want to trust Arlington, they just give me every reason to not trust them. Again, 11 penalties last week, 4 turnovers, a missed field goal, and 0-1 in the red zone. And that's why they lost that game. When you look at the game they lost to Birmingham, they were dominating that game all the way up until the very end when they let Birmingham storm down the field with like a minute left and then score the game-winning, 2-point conversion. And then you look at DC. They were handing it to DC. They were very, they had that game and they gave up the UFL's largest comeback in history for the UFL, obviously. I can't trust them. I can't trust them against good teams. Those are 3 good teams they've played. They did play St. Louis, but that was the same time that Manny Wilkins tore his Achilles, and they just lost to St. Louis this week. So, I think whenever they play a good team, they fail to execute. When that clutch moment or when it's in the red zone or whatever it may be, they have just consistently shown they failed to execute. So I like their defense. They think they're going to be able to keep it close, but at the end of the day, it's essentially a pick 'em. So I'm going to go with the more complete team with the best player in the UFL, and that is the Michigan Panthers. Again, number 1 scoring offense, number 2 in the pass and the run. They're a very balanced offense. Their defense has been playing well. Their defense is good against the run, and I think Arlington's going to struggle to run the ball with no Kalen Ballage. I think that's going to really hamper their offense. It's going to make them a little one-dimensional, and I think Michigan's going to be able to take advantage of that. So give me Michigan on the road there. Give me Michigan -1 at -105 there. Similar to the first game, no play on the over and the under on the total there. Could see it kind of going either way. Don't really have a strong opinion, so if I'm not going to be, feel good enough to bet it with my own money, damn sure not going to give it out. So let's go ahead and head over to the Sunday games here. The first one on the slate we have this. I think this is probably, Michigan Arlington could be. A lot of these games I think are going to be good, but Michigan Arlington you can make a case for. But I think this is the game of the week. I am most excited for this game. I know the spread's a little bit bigger, but this game is huge implications for Houston and Birmingham. So let's get right into it. It's kicking off on Sunday, 12 p.m. Eastern time in Birmingham, Alabama. You've got the 3-3 Houston Roughnecks heading to Birmingham to take on the 4-2 Birmingham Stallions. Over/under sitting at 38.5 here. As good as Birmingham has been, unfortunately, those fans don't really show it because they're not really showing up for these games here. So there's not really going to be much of a home edge there. Last time these two teams played just 3 weeks ago in week 4, Birmingham won by a score of 23-16, so a 7-point victory for them. A couple of notes from that game, though. Houston was able to move the ball excessively through the air, 271 passing yards. And this was the game Nolan Henderson got knocked out in the first quarter. So Jalen McClendon, quarterback now for the Houston Roughnecks, basically put up like 250 plus in 3 quarters. And then Matt Corral played most of that game except for like the last drive for Birmingham. So a bit different situation we have on our hands there, especially in the Birmingham quarterback room. Talked about Andrew Peasley being beat up. Case Cookus is kind of dealing with the knee thing. They brought in the guy, the arena football guy, Morton. They've got questions. And right now, for the first time in a long time, Houston does not have questions at the quarterback position, which is absolutely huge. They've also been super opportunistic on the defense side of the ball. They are winning the turnover battle, which if you've watched any CJ Johnson coach team, that is usually a struggle. So the fact that this team is consistently winning the turnover battle, I mean, they had a strip sack, fumble recovery for a touchdown there, scoop and score, which turned the game. I mean, they just consistently are finding these turnovers to help them actually win games there, which is, really good to see. Again, they're not turning the ball over, which is huge. They are the number 4 scoring defense. So right kind of middle of the pack, number 6 scoring offense. But again, that kind of skews the earlier on, especially their very poor offensive production with their quarterbacks, kind of skews that a little bit. Birmingham, on the other hand, again, I talked about the questions in the quarterback room there. They are becoming a very heavily penalized team. They're kind of becoming uncharacteristic to a typical Birmingham team. They had 10 penalties and a turnover last week. They do have the number 1 scoring defense there. They're number 1 against the rush, but they're bad against the pass. And I think that's where this game is going to boil down to. Their offense has been very meh. They're number 5 scoring offense, kind of just middle of the road, a little bit below average, both pass and rush offense. So their offense doesn't really scare me. It's been very ineffective, whether it's penalties or, swapping in quarterbacks because we have all these injuries. Houston's defense, I actually kind of trust here a little bit. I think what it's going to come down to is Jalen McClendon. We even saw Kevin Hogan, a guy who hasn't had a professional start in, I think it was 5 years or something like that. He came in and lit him up a little bit. And I think Jalen McClendon was able to do that in the last matchup. I think he's going to, with just more experience and more time with these wide receivers, I think he's going to have a really nice day against this secondary that has been one of the worst in the league. And I think that's going to keep him in it. So give me Houston plus 6.5 here. I really like Houston in this spot. Again, Birmingham don't really got to worry about their any home field advantage that does not exist. I think these teams are very, very close to each other. I think 6.5 is way too many points. I see this as way closer to a coin flip game. I really think McClendon, you can make a case, is playing much better than Case Cookus. They've got a solid wide receiving core. Zaquandre White is a really hard runner. They're going to do some things with, Kirk Merritt out of the backfield. I like Houston in this matchup. I really do. I think they're going to be able to exploit that secondary and put up some points there. Now, I am going to go with the under 38.5, though. Again, you do have the number 6 scoring offense in Houston. Sometimes they struggle to convert to touchdowns. And then you have the number 1 scoring defense, as Birmingham's only given up 13.7 points per game. They really tighten the screws down in the red zone. That's kind of what they're known for. And then their offense is definitely not putting up points like we're used to. I mean, they haven't eclipsed more than 30 all year. Even against San Antonio, they couldn't get over that number, which San Antonio's defense is they're traffic cones out there. So, I like the under in this one. I think this is going to be a tightly contested game. But give me something closer to maybe 18-16 or something like that, right? 20-14. I think we're going to be closer to that range than anything too high scoring there. All right, we are going to our last game on the slate here. We're gonna go with the St. Louis Battlehawks taking on the Memphis Showdogs. It is our Sunday nightcap there, or midday cap, whatever. Never too early. It's a Sunday. Have yourself a drink. But Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern, Memphis, Tennessee. We've got the 4-2 St. Louis Battlehawks taking on the 1-5 Memphis Showboats there. Over under sitting at 39. St. Louis, the road favorites, laying 4 on the road, -110, -240 on the money line. Memphis +195 on the money line there as home dogs. Another very interesting game, another very interesting matchup here. I, the spread's kind of telling you, but I don't think this Memphis team is as bad as definitely not as bad as last season or as bad as their record shows. I mean, they really should have beat Houston at least once, if not both of those games. They had DC on the ropes. They've played some good ball, especially with Dresser Wynn. He's kind of came in and give them some competency and not turn the ball over, which has been big for this team. St. Louis, they're not the same team outside of the Battle Dome. We'll say that at first, right? They're not as formidable, just kind of their track record, especially this season. And I still got questions about Max Duggan. I mean, he was unable to throw for more than 100 yards last week. He's very poor on his completion percentage. Their defense has been very good, but their offense has been struggling, especially with the shuffling of the offensive line. I think Abdul Beecham going on the IR makes a huge difference in this game and the games going forward. I think their O line is going to have to shuffle again and struggle a little bit. And when they can't dominate up front and run the ball, that presents problems for this offense. So, it is the Max Duggan and Jacob Saylor show on the ground. Hakeem Butler is an awesome addition because you're just going to throw him like 3 to 5 deep balls, and you should every single game because there's a good chance he's coming down with at least one of them. So that does kind of add a nice element for St. Louis. But I just talked about, I mean, Memphis is the number 2 pass defense, and it's only by a couple yards that they're not number 1. And they just picked up Darius Phillips to kind of bolster up that secondary even more. I think St. Louis, given their limitations at quarterback and, being one of the worst passing offenses in the league, I think they're going to struggle. I think Memphis is going to be able to lock them down on the outside and then kind of really kind of fill the box there and just sell out to stop the run, which I think is going to create some issues there for St. Louis to try to force them to beat them through the air. And I'm not sure Max Duggan and his wide receiver group is going to be able to do that. Memphis, they're kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit with some of these games, especially with Houston, with the 2 turnovers and things like that. But they were able to move the ball, and they really kind of were in control of that game until that defensive touchdown there. That set him up. Wes Hills has come back and looked like a stud. They picked him up off free agency last week. Again, no D. Anderson, but I think that means Daigwood Davis, one of their, all UFL wide receivers last season. He should be back this week. So I think that's a nice boost for them. So give me Memphis +4. I think they're able to keep it close here. I think they're live on the money line. I do like this Memphis team a little bit. I think that they are gritty. They play good defense. They can stick around in the game, and then see what happens with Dresser Wynn and Max Duggan. I think at this point, I mean, from a true quarterback's perspective, I think I trust Dresser Wynn more than Max Duggan. Obviously, Duggan's rushing ability gives him some upside there, but he's really struggled to throw the forward pass, and I think with this good secondary, they're going to be able to put some guys on islands and really sell out for this run. And it's going to kind of force Duggan to be able to beat him through the air. And I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that. I'm also going to go with the under 39 here. I think both these teams' defenses are ahead of their offenses here. Both these offenses definitely struggle to score touchdowns. Even kind of move the ball, but a lot of field goals for these teams. A lot of kind of maybe wasted possessions and things like that. So give me the under 39 there. I think you got St. Louis defense number 3 in scoring, especially good. They're both good against the run and the pass. Memphis's defense coming in at number 6, giving up 20 points or 21.5 points. Again, they're really good against the pass. I think they're going to force St. Louis to be one-dimensional, sell out for the run and just kind of, be able to live by that if Max Duggan's miraculously going to be able to, fire it down the field, which I have my skepticism. All right, folks. That is the 4-game slate for UFL Week 7. But do not fear. We've still got best bets coming up here. So we got best bets and Degen plays. So definitely stay tuned. And without further ado, I won't make you wait long. We're going to go right into it. My best bets for UFL Week 7. Give me DC minus 6.5. I apologize. Got to get the intern to get this graphic right. That is DC minus 6.5. They're at minus 120. I love DC in this game. I told you how bad I think San Antonio is. And that's going to bring me to one of my Degen plays here. Give me them minus 6.5 and give me them minus 11 at plus 158 on the alternate line. San Antonio has lost the past 2 weeks by a combined 47 points. 47 points. This is a revenge game for DC. This was, their first loss. This is San Antonio's only win on the season. I think San Antonio's only gotten worse. Their offensive line is atrocious. They've got questions at quarterback. I think DC coming off that beat down from Michigan, I think they're going to get up for this game, and I think they're going to take it out on San Antonio. So give me DC minus 6.5 and minus 120, and then minus 11 at plus 158. Also, I'm all over Houston. All over Houston in this matchup. Last time, circumstances were different. You had Matt Corral. No Matt Corral now. It's going to be a fairly limited Case Cookus or some guy they just signed this week. I think Jalen McClendon is going to be able to take advantage of that secondary just like he did back in week 4. I think Houston's going to be able to keep it close. Not only do I think they keep it close, I think they have a really good shot for an outright win. I do not, I think this money line at plus 255 is a value there. I see this game a lot closer to being a pick 'em or some type of toss up there. So give me Houston both with the spread of plus 6.5 and on the money line at a nice juicy plus 255. The Birmingham Stallions have played 3 straight quarterback number 3s in a row, and they've all had some success. So give me Jalen McClendon and quarterback number 3 to continue to give this poor secondary fits. All right, folks, that is it for the plays today here. This was your UFL Week 7 game breakdowns and best bets, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and let me know. That's pretty easy with a like, comment, right? Say what you agree. I like chopping up in the comments if you agree, whether it's with the power rankings or a pick. What do you agree with? What do you not agree with? What are you looking forward to this week? Let us know. Also, make sure you subscribe to this IDP Plus Bets channel. It's a newer channel, but we're going to be talking football. We're going to be talking about how you can make money off football all season. Also, check out IDP Plus. That's more of the fantasy side if you're into that, more of the general NFL kind of football realm. So definitely check out all of those. We've got a lot of great dynasty rankings coming up. A little bit more fantasy heavy with the NFL still being a little bit far away. But don't worry, we're going to be doing some bets in. We did the draft bets episode. We might look at some first quarterback markets, some of these other fun markets that we can look at there. But UFL for at least 6 more weeks. It's been a really nice to kind of break up these dog days of summer. So I know if you are a football junkie like myself, you are appreciating the UFL. We've had some really solid football the last 3 weeks. So make sure you check in and make sure you watch your bets cash because that's, in my opinion, the best part. All right, folks, enough of me rambling on here. I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for any views, likes, comments. It really does mean a lot as a new channel. Bosses like it, and it lets me know somebody's out there listening. So, all right, folks, from the Degen Doc here at IDP Plus Bets, I am out of here.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.